Mhm.
Great. We're going to start with that then. And Jason and Layla, I'm really excited for you guys to be here because I think this is going to go really well. Jason is in Living with Soul for this round, and I actually decided to add this video into Living with Soul because I think it's going to flow so beautifully in that. I'll just keep an eye on the time. And where are we tuning in from today? Can you guys pop it in the chat as well so I can see where the chat lives on the screen? Hopefully I can see it. Oh yeah. Okay. South of Brazil, Mari. Awesome. California. Layla's from Germany. Thor's from California. Elizabeth from South Africa. This is amazing. So many people from all around the world. Miguel's from New Jersey. I hope I'm saying your name right. Kristen from South Florida. Sahar from Israel. Jason from Canada. Oh, this is so great, guys. Wow, Kailash from Russia. This is so cool. Very cool. Makes me so happy to be able to work with you guys from this far away. Are there any Australians in this group? If so, good job on waking up a bit early for this. Detroit, Michigan, Xavier, Sandra from Germany. Welcome, Alexa. Okay, great. Can you guys also see my chat? Can you see the chat? No? Oh, you can, Jason? Can you see the chat on the screen that is it covering up the presentation? No? Okay, that's perfect. Yay, this is so great. I'm so glad that technology is working for me today. I was really praying that it would. Okay, we're gonna get into it, guys. It is 6. Oh, do you know what? One of my devices has an alarm going off. I'm so sorry. Just give me 1 second. Okay, now we can start. So funny, right after I say something about technology, it's like, hey. All right. So, does everybody have a journal with them as well? Because I think that's going to come in handy for this. You can take notes. Taking notes with this will be really good because there's a lot that we're going to be talking about here. And I'll be checking the chat throughout. I'll prompt you to pop something in the chat. And if you have any questions, make sure to write them down because at the end, if we have time, we're going to go through the questions. So let's take a breath together. Let's start this off with taking a breath. I really want to make sure that everyone is feeling really calm, spacious. So close down your eyes and just find some stillness. Taking a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Couple more breaths like that in through your nose and out through your mouth. With every breath, just notice how you are really grounding your energy. You might be bringing your energy up while you breathe in. That's normally what happens in your body's energy field. And when you breathe out, your energy goes back down into the earth. So just feel how it's doing that. I'd like you to take some time in this breath and in this spaciousness to set an intention for what you want to feel after this next hour to an hour and a half together. What would you have liked to work through in this time and the space that we have together? And I also welcome you to open up this space to call in your higher self, your spirit guides, your angels, whatever you like to call it. Call them in. Allow them to be with you. Allow them to guide you. Allow your higher self to step in and help you gain whatever you need to from this to help you move on with the rest of your life in a very expansive and trusting and loving way. And we'll take a couple more breaths here. One final intention for how you want to feel once you open your eyes. And then when you're ready, you can open your beautiful eyes. And welcome back to this container. Now, I want all of you to know that this container and all of my containers are safe spaces for you to express the deepest parts of your soul. Nothing is too deep, nothing is too emotional, nothing is too weird. We're all very accepting in all of my spaces, and I just want you to hold that energy with yourself and with anyone else. Anything that you see in the class, anything that you feel from this, know that it's okay. And this place is this is a space of love. This little corner of the internet is a space of love and a space of compassion. So thank you so much for being here and adding so much beauty to it. Now, let's get into what we're doing today. So what we're going to cover today this is really brief. I sort of just threw this together last minute, but this gives you a pretty good idea. So we're going to look at how self-worth shows up, the do's and don'ts of how to fix low self-worth. We're going to do a visualization, which will be really juicy. I'm really excited for that. Practical examples for your life. So how to even apply any of this to your life, because it's very, very heady. I want to bring that down into your body. I want you to be able to embody this. We're going to go through the 5 C's process, which I made up specifically for this class, and how you will make a change. So, hello, I'm Shriyanka. This is what I'm like in normal daily life. I just wanted to give you a little brief on who I am in case you see me on Instagram and you're like, I know that this is only a sliver. I really like creating. I like writing, painting, music, dancing, all the artsy things. We're all artists. And I'm a little bit of a metaphysics, ancient history, and spirituality nerd. I love reading. I love watching documentaries on all of this stuff. I love connecting. I love to spend time with my dog and my partner, Ben, all of my friends. I'm very family oriented. I love my family. My mom's side is Sri Lankan, my dad's side is American. And I'm very close, especially with the Sri Lankan side of my family. And if you're wondering why am I in Australia, why I talk like this, I'm originally from Minnesota. I came over to Australia when I was 19, so about 10 years ago now. And then I met my partner, we got a house and a dog, etc. And if you're wondering about my astrology or human design, a lot of my clients end up asking me this, so I'll just tell you right now. I'm an Aquarius sun, Cancer moon, and Scorpio rising. I have heaps of Aquarius placements, and I'm a manifesting generator. To be honest with you, I don't know that much about human design, but I know that sometimes helps if you are into human design and you're considering working with me. So a bit about my vision and my mission as well. This is basically the entire point of everything I do. That's why I've made this for you. I want to change the world just like each and every one of us, right? This is my little ripple effect that I make on the world. I want to help people. I've always said my main thing is that if I can just help one person, my job is done. And that's what is most important to me. So I want to help people. I want to raise the consciousness of the planet. And this is also a lot for my own personal journey, my point of self-expression, and to make a stable and secure foundation so I can spend more time with the ones I love and eventually start a family. So that is what I'm doing right now. I am so grateful that I have found a crossover to do all of this because I'm sure you can relate so much to all of this. I know that each one of you are here because you have beautiful hearts. And if you can relate to this, please know this is possible for you. This is possible for you too. And if you have that vision, it is real and you can follow that. I didn't realize that this is a real thing until like 4 years ago. I thought this was only for other people, but I realized that it could be for me too. I harnessed that and I was able to actually follow through with that. And it took time, but you can do it. You can do it. I believe so wholeheartedly in you. So the chat's about self-worth. We're into it now, guys. So we're going to look at how self-worth shows up. And you might have seen some of these on Instagram. And I'd love for you to put into the chat which ones of these shows up. So you can just put the number of them. So the first one is, and also these are just examples. There's obviously a lot more. But comparing yourself to others or past versions of yourself, not following through on the things you say you will do, holding yourself back from opportunities that are in alignment with your soul, staying stuck in a habit, location, relationship, or pattern of some kind that you consciously know doesn't serve you. This can be addictions too. Self-doubt and lack of self-trust, perfectionism, self-criticism, self-judgment. This is personally kind of a big one for me, and it's very subtle at these points in my life. And it's really interesting to see how as you move through all of this work, it gets more and more subtle for you. Being afraid to be seen, harsh and poor self-talk and image, making excuses for not spending time, money, or energy on yourself or things that benefit you. This is also kind of a big one. This used to be me quite a bit. It actually wasn't until I started realizing how much more I could serve and how much more I could actually enjoy my life when I was spending more time or money or energy on myself. It truly made such a big difference in the way I showed up in the world, the way I show up now in the world. Telling yourself you can't or you don't deserve it, even perpetually putting other people's needs above your own. I see a lot of people doing this. Feeling like a victim to your circumstances. And this one is really big. Being in a victim mentality is such an important thing to know when you're doing that. And this can be a really slippery slope as well, because sometimes we are, even from a very young age, we're taught to almost pity ourselves when something bad happens. And there's a difference between not liking an experience, feeling sad about an experience, really wishing that experience didn't happen, and then keeping yourself in that space and playing the victim. So that's it. The being a victim it's nuanced in many ways, and you will know when you're doing it if you are aware of the two sides of the coin, which we're going to look at very soon. So don't worry. Also, people pleasing, not having boundaries, having a disheartening vision of the future, either short term or long term, trouble asking for what you need, and consistently making choices that hold you in a place of stagnancy. So I'm looking at the chat and I see that, wow, there's a lot of you that resonate with a lot of these ones. And you know what? The beautiful thing about this is that all of these can be changed. All of these can be shifted. Even if it feels really alive for you right now, we can change and we can shift this. So how do we do that? How do we deactivate low self-worth? How do we loosen the grip? And I actually say it this way. I'm saying deactivate, loosen the grip, because in reality, we're probably months in living with soul. Oh, did I just cut out a little bit?
Yes.
Oh, where did I cut out?
I just maybe not even half a minute, but you did.
Okay. So I'll just repeat what I said. How do we deactivate low self-worth? How do we loosen the grip? The reason why I have put it in these words, I've said deactivate or loosen the grip, is because in reality, within 60 to 90 minutes of our time, we're probably not going to completely heal low self-worth. And that's just my full, transparent opinion. It could happen. I'm not going to take that off the table, but even in 3 months' time, you're going to see massive changes in living with soul, but it's still going to be the beginning of your journey. Like they're just little parts of your life, and this is actually consistent practice. So I'm going to show you how you deactivate some of that, make it less alive for you, how you loosen the grip that you might have on it, and give you some processes that will help you in your daily life keep this sustainable. Because really what is going to heal your low self-worth is you staying consistent with your practices. And when I say practices, I don't mean meditation. I mean you living your daily life, moment by moment, being present and choosing yourself. So here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to ignore how you actually feel. We're not going to ignore the signs of your body. We're not going to force yourself to just try and think positive. This is not positive thinking. We're not going to try to think yourself out of any of this altogether. We're not going to bypass your reality, because this is avoidance and this is rejection. And that's you rejecting that part of you, which you actually need to love. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to look at it with love. We're going to look at it with courage, with curiosity. These are really big. Love, courage, curiosity. It's not always easy to look at the parts of ourselves that we don't really like to look at that much. So we're also going to get to know this part of you a little bit more. We're going to see this other side of it and open up to reclaim. And usually it comes from trauma and abuse. It comes from harsh judgment or criticism from people we are in close contact with. So I'm saying in close contact with, because sometimes it could be a parent, sometimes it could be a sibling, sometimes it could be your boss. And it's not just when you're in childhood. This can happen when you're in your 20s as well, depending on what relationships you have in your 20s. Maybe you get into a really close connection with someone and they are very judgmental of you. Maybe they all shower you with love at the start, but then completely pull back and give you the lack of love and action or celebration or appreciation. And all of this leads to unprocessed emotions. And we might think, okay, well, I'm just gonna move on. I'm not going to think about that anymore. Like that part of my life is done. But really what happens is that creates shame about who we are or our life experiences. And the shame is usually where the low self-worth is coming from. And you might even realize, like you might not even realize that you are carrying this shame. For me, what the way low self-worth was showing up for me was not from any major childhood experiences, but it did come from the public school system, because I felt like I wasn't showing up in the way that the school system needed me to. I'm very much someone who thinks outside the lines, and that was even from a young age. We have this criteria that we have to stick to with certain reports or projects. I'd always do something a little bit outside the lines, and that wouldn't get very good grades. And I actually started seeing lower and lower self-worth because I was seeing that my creativity wasn't working. And that also caused me to have lower trust with myself. So yes, it can happen from major trauma and abuse, but for me, like I had a very happy childhood, except for that whole experience. The public school system really stuffed me around, to be honest with you, but it did make me who I am today. And I'm really grateful for that experience, because sometimes the resistance that we have, it can actually give us this like blanket of fertile soil. It's like we're covering ourselves with dirt, and we're a seed that has to push up through the dirt. And because the dirt is so black and dark and fertile, we actually become very strong from it. So that's how I view some of this resistance that we feel in life. And that's something that I think can help to shift your idea from being a victim to the circumstances to actually gaining empowerment. So you look at your past, wherever any of this low self-worth comes from, if you look at your past and you can start to change your perspective on it from one that goes from victimhood to empowerment, notice what that does for you. And know that these experiences, all of these experiences, really what it's doing is it's creating beliefs about yourself and your life. This is where your self-identity comes from. So your sense of self, your self-image, all of it comes from this. So it could be very subtle that low self-worth is showing up, or you might not even register really that low self-worth is a problem for you, but just look at what your self-image is. Look at the way you talk to yourself. Look at the way you see how you're going to be in certain situations, in certain social situations. Are you going to show up as your most magnetic self? Do you even know what that looks like? And we're going to find out what that looks like. So, but before we do that though, I want you to write down, and you can pop this in the chat too, what words describe how low self-worth feels, looks, and sounds like to you. And I actually want you to write this down because we're going to make a connection here. So what words describe how low self-worth feels like, looks like or sounds like to you. You can put it in the chat or you can write it in your notebook. And I want you to do this mainly because this is you starting the process of reclaiming it. So it's no longer having this very elusive presence in your mind. It's there. You want to see what it is and how it's showing up, because that is going to bring you awareness in your everyday situations. So there's some people who have said self-doubt, self-criticism, disgusting, ugly, stupid, being ashamed of yourself, small, contracting, not using my voice, quiet, unseen, unworthy, waking up in the morning, not wanting to get out of bed, feeling like you've found your love and light for the world. A feeling of being squished or confined, no energy to break free, nothing to offer, hiding, empty, anxious, shame, guilt. Okay. Lacking trust, doubt, anxiety. Okay. So you know then that when this is showing up for you, it's going to feel like this, right? So whenever I just want you to be crystal clear. These emotions are the emotions of low self-worth. They're going to show up as not feeling safe in your body, doubt, etc. So these are actually showing up as limiting beliefs. These are limiting beliefs, and these limiting beliefs are based in fear and lack. Every single one of these is. So the thing about fear and lack is that it doesn't have to end here, really, is what I'm trying to say. These all come from your ego. All of these expressions, all of these feelings, this perspective on life, these beliefs are beliefs of your ego. So we have your ego. We also have another part of you. That's the part of you that actually pulled you to sign up for this masterclass. That's the part of you that you connected with when we were doing that breath together and when you were setting intentions. That's what the other option is. Because the thing is, you're not a victim to fear and limiting beliefs anymore, because you now have this awareness. You have awareness that is giving you a choice in this moment. So let's look at the options, because we live in this dualistic world. We have two options. We have the ego and we have the soul. That's that other part of you. I call it the soul. You can call it whatever you like. You know that part of you. So every single limiting belief, fear, whatever else you wrote in the chat or in your notebook, all of that has a counterpart. The counterpart is in the soul. The soul is the truest part of you. The soul is you. The ego is this made up construct that is actually just based and rooted in survival mode. This is your primal brain. This is actually what served humans for thousands and thousands of years to survive in anxiety. But actually, we are going into a world where we don't actually need the ego quite as much as we needed it before. Thankfully, you're living a life right now. This earth that we live on is nothing like the earth that we even grew up in. We're switching to something new in this life. And this is going to require you using your soul, living with soul. So instead of that fear, whenever you feel that fear, you wake up in the morning, you feel fear, you feel anxious, you feel worthless. Know that there is another side of that coin. There's something else. And yes, you might not be able to reach it that day, but you know that there is something else. With you even seeing that light, if you know that it is within you already, that is going to be enough. But you have to be aware that this is not you. This is not you. So on the other side of fear is love. On the other side of lack is abundance. Instead of being limited, you can be expanded. Instead of being in scarcity, you can be in excess. Instead of forcing yourself, you can come from a place of power. You go from victimhood to empowerment. Instead of being repellent, you're magnetic to all of the things that you want. And instead of living in illusion, you are actually living in your personal truth. This is your personal truth, is your soul. And I want to tell you something about your soul while we're here. If you set an intention to live with your soul, if you set an intention to hear your soul, to speak with your soul, to actually be in this place, and you ask for help from that part of you, from your higher self, it can happen for you. And sometimes we don't even realize that it just takes asking. Sometimes we just need to ask. So make sure that you are asking. And also know that these are two parts that make up a whole. Your ego is not something to be rejected anymore or ignored, just like what we said at the beginning of this. We don't want you to ignore or reject or avoid the ego. We actually want the soul and the love that you feel from your soul to be so powerful and potent that it seeps out into all other aspects of your life. So you can actually see yourself. This is huge, guys. This is a really big part, actually. You can see the parts of yourself that are acting out of fear, are acting out of lack, do hold these limiting beliefs. Like, let's say you wake up and you're feeling really ashamed or anxious or depressed. And then you realize, okay, well, I know that there's this other side of me and it's really hard for me to get there. And then you start feeling down on yourself because of that. That's your ego coming back again. How can you love that part of you? How can you say, oh my gosh, I'm feeling really tender today. I feel like I really need some love today. And then you just let yourself be in a place of abundance of time. You give yourself a little bit of extra time. You give yourself a little bit of extra love. Go off of this. Go off of what this is saying. How can you choose one of these when you are feeling one of these? And they can cross over. If you're feeling like you're in victim mode right now, you don't have to go straight into empowerment, but you can go into love. How can you show yourself a little bit more love? Just a little bit more love. A little bit goes a long way. This is going to be really important. Love, all of the soul stuff, this is what's going to make the biggest difference for you, even if you implement it in the smallest ways. That is how you start to heal your self-worth, because your soul knows that you are worthy. And look at the people in society who lived with soul. Some of the greatest leaders and change makers that we've ever seen in this world all were coming from this place. Do you think it's not that they never looked at any of these parts of themselves and said, oh my God, I'm such a bad person. I shouldn't do this because I'm feeling fear. Like everybody has an ego, but not everyone gives their soul the power that it needs to actually deactivate the ego, because that's where low self-worth is coming from. It's coming from the ego. So let's look a little bit more at your soul. What does your soul even look like? I want to see a show of hands. I want to see you physically do this, not just the emoji. How many of you actually can imagine what it would look like for you to have high self-worth? So raise your hand if that's true for you. And it's okay if not. If you're not sure, you can keep your hands down. Okay. Do you know what your authenticity feels like? So show of hands, do you know what it feels like to be in your authenticity? Have you been in that place? Okay, great. I like seeing all of your cute hands. And do you know how your most magnetic, abundant, and attractive self acts in your day-to-day life? Show of hands. You know how this version of you acts? Okay. Some know. That's okay. All right, we're going to go into a bit of a visualization then. And I would like you to just be really comfortable. You can lie down if you'd like, if that feels better for you. And mainly, I just want you to make sure that your spine is relatively straight. So if you're laying down, just put a little pillow under your knees and just point your heart upward toward the sky. Take a deep breath. Listen to my voice. Continue to take these deep breaths. And I'd like you to actually just start doing a little relaxation of every single part of your body, starting from your head. So releasing the forehead, releasing the jaw, dropping your shoulders away from your ears, continuing to point that heart upward, noticing your pelvis. Now, if you tilt it forward or backward, it might feel a little bit more comfortable for your spine. And just having your hands on your lap. Feeling the weight of your hands on your lap. Feeling the weight of your body against your seat. And noticing how in this space, you feel the void, but it's almost like it's clouded a little bit with certain thoughts, maybe certain emotions, probably mainly thoughts. So how can we clear that space a little bit more with whatever thoughts are coming up? Any of those thoughts, how can we clear this space? Just make it completely black space, this emptiness, this void. Letting yourself be comfortable in that black void. This is your special place. It is just like that dark black soil. It is so fertile for growth. So just clearing it out. And I'd actually like you to now paint a picture in your mind of your most beautiful space. And this is just a space for you. It's for no one else. No one else is going to be here except for you. So this might be somewhere you love, that you've been before. This might be someplace that is completely made up in your mind. Maybe a place in nature. Maybe a room or a beautiful home somewhere. Just notice the colors that come up for you. The textures. And in this space, there is a water source of some kind, whether it's the ocean or a sink or a bath. Whatever it is, I'd like you to move toward the water source. And as you do, get closer and you know that this water source is a place where you are stepping into your last days as this, your last moments as this version of you. Because as soon as this water touches your skin, you are going to start leaving behind all the parts of you that you no longer want, you no longer want to associate with. So I'd like you to start running your hands through this water and allow yourself to notice what comes up for you as you begin this process of letting go. Moving the rest of your body into the water. Letting go of every single part that you don't want. All the aspects of your personality that aren't serving you. All of the parts of your past. It's okay to let it go. It's okay to let it go now. Because as this water cleanses this from you, you become empty. You become a blank slate for you to start adopting something new, something completely new. You get to adopt the other side of these beliefs. So any of these beliefs that you want to let go of, let them go. Let the water cleanse them. You can submerge your whole body if you like. And even if you're not sure what you're letting go of, maybe you like to just let go of everything. And that's okay too. Let yourself completely surrender. What does that surrendering feel like?
Relief.
And now, in this place of emptiness that you find yourself, I'd like you to also start bringing to mind what you would like to start bringing in. And as you move with this water and perhaps move out of the water, you look around and you notice that there is a beautiful person standing and shining and glowing just off in the distance. So I'd like you to move toward them. You just feel magnetized toward them, so attracted to them. And as you move closer, you notice how familiar this person is to you. This is your highest self. This is the truest physical representation of your soul. This is your most magnetic, abundant, and authentic self. And as they look at you with a big smile, welcoming you to this space, I'd like you to interact with them now, however you feel is most suitable for you in this moment. What would you like to say to them? This beautiful version of you. And what would they like to say to you? This version of you is so loving and so full of a limitless life force energy, limitless energy. And they would like to give you that energy now. They hold so much peace, abundance, magnetism, truth, creative flow. They hold all of these traits, and they would like to share it with you now. Now that you are in this space of emptiness, space of openness and safety within yourself, trust within yourself, so perhaps you like to place the palms of your hands against theirs. Maybe you like to give them a hug. Connect your heart spaces and feel that energy begin to flow in to you. Your self-worth beginning to completely restore itself, heal all of those cracks and wounds. Because this magnetic you, this soulful you, knows that they are inherently worthy. Every soul on this planet is. Every soul. Including you. Every vision, every dream, every goal you have for your future, you are worthy of. Every desire you have from this deep soul level, you are worthy of because it is yours. No one else has that vision quite like you do. No one else has that unique vision. And because that's yours, you deserve it. Every day you can wake up knowing that this is what you are working toward because you know you deserve it. Even if you don't have that clear vision and have that dream, you know you are working toward embodying the soulful, shining, glowing, radiant version of yourself that you see within. This version of you is real. This is the most real you that you could ever be. Everything else you ever experience are only layers and layers and layers over that, over this part of you. And take some final moments now with this version of yourself. Maybe you like to say thank you and give them gratitude. And then to come back into this space, you can just start to deepen your breath and allow your breath to carry you back. And you can start to rub your hands together as well. Be moving your hands up your arms, maybe over your face. Maybe your hands on your heart. And know that this part of you, this place that you just were, is more real than you could ever even consciously realize. And sometimes we just need to see it to actually start opening up that channel. So know that you can bring that into your life at all times when you're feeling like you're in any other place, you're feeling like you're in these states of low self-worth. Remember that part of you exists. Remember that is actually you. That is the real you. That is the real you. So thank you all for going on that journey with me. And I want to say that you don't get to choose your emotions. We don't choose our emotions. We don't get to just decide if we're going to be happy if we're feeling sad. That's not how it works. However, you do get to choose your perspective and your beliefs, and those, your perspective, that is what your emotions come from. That is the root of all of your emotions, is your perspective. And you get to choose that. You get to choose what your beliefs are. You get to choose how you show up in the world and how you talk about yourself. So if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling upset in any way, let yourself feel that. We're not bypassing it. But realize that you get to choose something else, and it starts up here, the way you're viewing yourself, the way you're viewing your life. You don't get to redo your past. Your history is what your history is. But you do get to tell a story of empowerment. You don't have to be in victim mode. You get to be empowered. You don't get to control your future. There's no control as much as we wish we could. But you do get to choose who you are in this moment. That's actually what changes everything, isn't it? So let's look at why we're even doing any of this. Because we want to change the opportunities we have and what opportunities we set ourselves up with. We want to change the energetics that we're moving through life with. We want to set stronger boundaries and standards for our life. So let's look at what each of these means and some examples. So first, I want to ask you, are you even open to opportunities? Some of us aren't. Some of us will say that we are, but then when the opportunity comes up, we will shy away from it. We'll say, oh, I actually not feeling very good today, or I have this, and this going on, and it's too much. These are very easy ways that we hold ourselves back. They're excuses. And sometimes it's not just because we're too tired or we're not feeling very good. Sometimes it's because we're not actually very open to opportunity when it's presenting itself. So are you putting yourself in situations where you have opportunities that will lead you to the next part of your path? And that's another big question. Sometimes we don't even apply for the job. We don't even go on that date. We don't even do the things that we want to do, even if you want to start a new hobby. Are you going to that? Are you going to the gym? Are you going to that community event where they're practicing that hobby that you're interested in? Are you stopping yourself early? What kind of opportunities are you allowing yourself to say yes to? There is an opportunity in every moment, and this actually boils down to choices. So what are you saying yes to? Look at what you are saying yes to. That's going to tell you a lot about where you need to make some shifts. And some examples, or an example of this is when you're given an opportunity that you know is going to serve you, but you stop yourself. And usually that's out of fear. So this could be when, perfect example is, I know a lot of you have, there's actually a really big handful of my own clients in here. And they have all been given the opportunities to take their life to the next level through hiring me as a mentor in some capacity. And they did not let themselves get stopped because of fear, because pretty much, I think almost everyone that is a client of mine, I have been one of their first mentors, which is such an honor. But usually when it's your first mentor, it's like, do I even need this? Do I have the money for this? Do I have the time for this? Am I worth it? Am I actually going to make any changes in my life? So you have to see where you're stopping yourself. And if those are actually legitimate concerns, or if they're concerns because you've put fear and lack and a limiting belief on it. Next one is energetics. I actually have a personal story from this. So can you hold the energy of what you're receiving? The universe is only going to give you what you feel you deserve. And if it gives you any more than that, it's going to balance itself out. So, like a thermostat, if you set your thermostat at 23 degrees Celsius, too cold if it's Fahrenheit, and your house goes up to 27 degrees, it's going to go back down to 23 degrees because that's what your thermostat is. You have an inner thermostat. That's your self-identity. That's your self-image. So you need to shift your self-worth. You need to get into this magnetic state, because otherwise you're going to keep going back to the 23 degrees. If you want to be a 27-degree person, you need to actually change your thermostat. And one of the biggest ways this actually showed up for me is I had the same amount of money in my bank account for like, I don't know, probably like 8 years, same exact amount. And I went through a lot of different jobs, a lot of times where I wasn't working as much, sometimes when I was working so much, but I always had the same amount, and it was mind-blowing. I was like, why did this happen? Why is this happening to me? But it's because of my self-image. It was because of the way I was viewing myself, the way I was viewing money, and my relationship with abundance. I wasn't making it past a certain point, regardless of how much I worked, because my thermostat was set at 23 degrees and I wanted it to be at 30. So you have to change your self-image. You have to connect with this magnetic version of you, that visualization that we did together. Connect with that version of you every day. Connect with it when you're falling asleep at night, or when you first wake up in the morning and you're just laying in bed. It's one of my favorite things to do. It's one of my favorite things about sleep, is because I get to connect with that part of me. The next thing is boundaries. So are you comfortable setting boundaries with other people? Oh, boundaries, relationships, fun stuff. It's a part of being a human. It's a part of connection. Sometimes feels very uncomfortable though, especially if we have if we're coming from a place of low self-worth, because often low self-worth traits are going to be along the lines of people pleasing and wanting to make sure everyone's okay and everyone's happy, and your needs are not nearly as important as someone else's. So your boundaries might seem really selfish, but you have to ask yourself if you are comfortable with those boundaries. And hopefully your answer is yes, especially if your boundaries are rooted in love. Boundaries are what are going to give you an outline for what you're willing to both give and receive in a relationship. And those must be communicated in order to honor the self-worth. And actually, it's going to really help your relationship as well. There's not going to be any underlying feelings of resentment. There's not going to be any feelings like you're giving too much. If you say what you are willing to both give and receive in a relationship, you might also learn some things about yourself or how to show up in relationships. So this is actually a really good thing to do. And sometimes that takes a lot more than just having a conversation straight up. You need to make the space comfortable and safe, and all of that is something that is a practice as well, which is something that we will go into in Living with Soul if that is something that interests you. So an example of this is to look at how certain people communicate with you in your life. Are you happy with the way you communicate with your partner or your siblings or your parents or your boss? And I know that sometimes we might have some really tricky relationships that we have to consider. So this is a practice of self-trust. You need to know how to discern which people are ready for these types of conversations and whatnot. But really, you need to also make sure you are not putting yourself in a position where you are constantly being ridiculed or made to feel less than who you are. That's not okay in a relationship, and you need to make sure that your boundaries are reflecting that. Your boundaries and the way you're showing up in a relationship are very good reflection for your level of self-worth. All relationships are reflections. They're mirrors. So they're going to show you where your self-worth lies. And then we have standards. So what are your standards for life? These are like boundaries. But instead of these being for others, these are actually for your daily life and what you give to yourself. So ask yourself, what standards do I have? Do I even have any? This is one that I think a lot of people miss. I think a lot of people have sort of thought about standards as being this materialistic thing or something that's not good to have in your life. If you have too high of standards, we always hear about this being a problem, but actually standards are reflections of how you express yourself to the world, what you eat, how you take care of your body. If you have really low standards for yourself because you have low self-worth, you're probably not going to be taking care of your body very well. And that's going to lead to health concerns, of course. We know that from science. So we need to really look at what standards we are holding for ourselves, and also looking at if you're happy in your living situation, in your job, in your relationship. If you have low standards in any of these areas of your life, they're going to perpetuate that feeling of low self-worth. As you raise your standards, your self-worth raises too. As you raise your standards, your self-worth raises too. They go hand in hand with each other. They both rise at the same time. And on top of the standards, actually, this is so important because standards are showing you as well how much trust you can build in yourself. And as we know, as you build self-trust, you also are building self-worth. Because if you have made a standard, okay, I'm going to start eating less processed food. I'm going to stop eating processed food even. If you have created that standard for yourself and then you start living that way, look at what that does to your self-trust. You've just made a decision to do something. You're following through with it, and your self-trust grows and your self-worth grows. So this is a really practical example. And now we're going to look at the 5 C's. And this is going to put it even more into practice and help you actually lay everything out. So we have consciousness at the start, clarity, choice, consistency, confirmation, and then it goes back into consciousness, because this is just a cycle of growth. We don't just do this as like a little checklist and then we're done. We're always going to be doing this throughout our whole life. So consciousness, clarity, choice, consistency, and confirmation. And in this case, one of 2 things is going to happen. So the first one is you might get caught in a cycle. So let's say you start here with consciousness, and then you get clear, and then you drop the ball. You start making the same choices that you've always made in the past. So you drop the ball, you're just caught, you stop there. And then we start over again. Okay, I'm conscious. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be this person anymore. So I'm going to move a little bit further. I made the choice. I'm being pretty consistent with it. And then I dropped the ball again because I stopped after 2 weeks. Then we have to start again. We start back at the beginning again. And what we want to do is, when we get to this place of confirmation, which we're going to talk about more, this is you actually seeing the results and you getting the confirmations that all of this is coming to fruition, and then we can go back into the consciousness. So the thing is, when you're caught in the cycle, this is stagnancy. This is probably what I don't know how often you guys feel this, but I've felt this many times where I'm like, okay, something I'm doing is not working. I just feel like I'm treading water right now. Something here is happening then. This is what stagnancy is. And if we look at this as this is a bird's eye view, this is side-on view. Time goes on, we're growing. The growth is not really happening as much. I mean, we're always learning because time gives us lessons and it helps us learn. And eventually, we're going to learn all of these. Eventually, we are going to grow. But when it comes to growth toward things that you will feel deeply fulfilled by on a soul level, sometimes that needs to go a little bit further out. So this is the other option. This is the other thing that can happen. You'll start here at consciousness. This is you like a year ago. And you've moved through that cycle, and then you're back at consciousness again. And you start going around and around, and you're moving in a cycle, this endless spiral, because you are continuously moving on this path and you're making these choices continuously. You're making choices, actually, this is going to be one of the biggest parts where we might drop the ball. The choices, the clarity, these 2 are going to be what actually extends the spiral outward, because you're going to get a different vision for your future once you get these confirmations, and once you make that new goal in your mind or that new vision. I want the next thing. That doesn't actually have to be a bad thing if you are enjoying your life in every single moment, which is possible. You can enjoy the process. You can enjoy the journey. That's actually what confirmation is. It's you enjoying the journey. But you can also have bigger and bigger dreams. That's one of the beauty. That's some of the beauty of the ego, actually. The ego is not this evil thing. We just need to know how to use it. So you're going to make these bigger dreams. You're going to have to make different choices then, won't you? So that's what's expanding it. And that's where over time you start growing wider and wider and wider. You look like a nautilus shell, the Fibonacci sequence. This is the spiral of life. This is where it all comes together, guys. So let's look at each one of these, do a little bit more of a deep dive. So we have consciousness as number one, and this is awareness of where you're at. This is you being present, you seeing what holds you back. So this is actually looking at the low self-worth habits, the limiting beliefs, the fears. And the thing about the being conscious, when you are in this place where you are growing and evolving and expanding, as you get to these wider circles, as you get further and further to the top, it is going to become more and more subtle for you what these low self-worth habits and limiting beliefs and fears are like. Oh my gosh, the sun just rose and it is so hot. I'm gonna be sweating soon. So just be aware that this process is going to take it is going to take that time and consistency, and it's going to take a greater and greater level of awareness as you grow. That's mainly what I want you to know. And so far, I'm going to check that one off because you have done that today. So I want you to celebrate yourself for that. Yay! Woohoo! Next one is clarity. And this is awareness of where you want to be. This is the magnetic self, the abundant self. This is you living with your soul, experiencing love, rewriting beliefs, visualizing. Essentially, this is the first step of empowerment. This is you actually realizing, okay, there is another option. I don't have to stay stuck in my low self-worth habits. I don't have to stay stuck in the shame and this anxiety and this sadness that I am feeling right now. I know that there is something more than that, and you having more and more clarity. So clarity might take some time to come in, but the first place that this starts is you realizing that you have something more. You realizing that you have the soul. And we did this too. Yay! So great. So then you have choices. This is the third step. Now, this is up to you. This is where you make choices that are rooted in higher self-worth. They're rooted in trust. Rooted in trust for yourself, trust in your vision, trust that you're going to be supported by the universe or God or source, whatever you feel comfortable calling it. This is where you make conscious decisions in your everyday life. This is where you're making choices that will allow you to gain more trust in yourself. And this is where you get to practice looking at your fears and limitations with love. So remember how we talked about when you are waking up in the morning and you're feeling a bit low or stagnant and you're in this mood and you're like, I don't even know if I can do any of these things that I said I would do. Start finding yourself kind of going into that pattern again. Let's say that you end up making a choice that is part of that habit, that low self-worth habit. Can you then make a choice to see yourself in the light of compassion, or maybe start giving yourself a bit more abundance of time or money in some ways, if you feel like okay, you know what? I'm going to make a change. I'm going to sign up for that gym membership finally and start going. I'm going to sign up for that program. Going to give myself that time to read the book. So it's finding compassion for yourself after you even make some choices that are rooted in fear or limitation too. That's what choice gives you. It's everything. And then we have consistency. So actually, we're not checking this one off because this is going to take you. You have to do this. And it's the same thing with consistency. This is a you thing. This is what you're going to do after we are done with this call. And consistency is what you're going to do 3 weeks after this call. You're going to be staying consistent with this. Consistency is important not only when things are easy and flowing for you. This is also being consistent when things get hard, when life gets a little bit more challenging for whatever reason. Maybe you're working a lot. Maybe something comes up in your family. Maybe something comes up in your relationship. Maybe you fall in love and then get your heart broken. Whatever it is, you got to stay consistent. And this is a devotion to yourself. Meet with your higher self, meet with your soul every night, every morning, and they will help you stay consistent. You have to remember that they exist and that is the truest part of you. They're going to help, they're going to go from this place in your mind and fully embody your physical being. The more you meet with them, the more you connect with them, the more you show up with that beautiful, loving energy. And you receive that beautiful, loving energy from them. And this is where you also are rebuilding the trust in yourself. So it's not in the choices, it's not in the vision. You only build trust with yourself when you stay consistent with what you're doing here. And this is ultimately what leads you to higher self-worth. And then we have confirmation. So this is proof that your loving efforts are paying off. And this is where you experience your dream life every single moment. This is not just the end results, but this is you enjoying all parts of the journey. So, you know, that quote, it's not the destination, it's the journey. I probably didn't say it. I don't think that's how it's said, but you know what I mean. Because and that's something that I think we can get caught up in really, really easily, especially in the society that we have built. We think that there's, you know, because we have these goals and we have these dreams, that once we get that job, or once we get that house and we're living at that house, or once we make that money or find that person, then everything is going to get better. Everything's going to be happening. But you can actually have that right now. And I know that the confirmations of your dream life might look like you living in that house, but can you look around right now and see what confirmations are around in your life that are showing you that, hey, I am living a pretty good life. Like, this is you being in gratitude. And I want you to realize how powerful your perspective shifts and your trust truly is for you. And this whole thing, like this whole process, you might be at this level right now already, and you're just reaching the next part of your consciousness. You might be starting off at the very beginning, but also some of you might be right here. I mean, there's 40 people in this class. I can't believe it. There's so many people here. So happy. But I just want you to know that there are confirmations around you right now. There's confirmations around you every moment, and that's going to help feed into your presence and your consciousness. It's going to help you become more clear. Ask yourself now, what decisions would your authentic self make after we get off this call? What would your authentic self, your most magnetic self, your most abundant self that you are within, that you hold within, what choices are they going to make? What are they going to do? What are they going to do not only for the next few hours, what are they going to do for the next few weeks? Can your choices all be rooted in love and trust? Yes, they can. If you are ever confused on what you need to do, what is the most loving answer? What is the most loving thing you can do in that moment? If you ever have to make a decision, so if you want to continue this journey with me and go a lot deeper, this is exactly what I did to get to where I am today. And I have created a very structured approach to some of life's most valuable lessons. And the work that I've created here continues to teach me as well. So not just the beautiful people in Living with Soul. And I'm just really excited to share it with you. So Living with Soul goes through this process where we start from the feet, we go through the energy centers of the body, we go to the knees, we go to the root. We're taking some rest days or some rest weeks as well. And once we do those rests and integration periods, we go to the sacrum, we go to the solar plexus, to the heart, we go to the throat, third eye, and crown, and we move all the way up the energy centers to this place where we can finally share our medicine and step into service. That is the ultimate goal of all personal development, isn't it? We're not doing this just so we can make ourselves better people. We're doing this essentially so we can show up at least in a way and live by example and to be a guide by example. That is really what the whole process is of all of this. And some of you actually do have dreams to step into service. You might want to be coaches. You might want to be mentors. You might want to be a teacher of some kind or just help people, and you're not quite sure what it is. When I first started coaching, my mentor told me, I think you'd be a good coach. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. My ego was getting in the way. I told my coach I didn't want to, but then I did it. And I took my first client and I ended up falling in love with it. So if you know that you want to help people, but you don't know how or why, and there's a part of you that's like, oh, I don't know if coaching is my thing. It might be. I'm just saying. I was pretty adamant on it and it did become my thing. So and so I also created Living with Soul, which is a group coaching program. And I love this because it actually gives a lot more structure to coaching, and I can help a lot of people at once in a group container, which is pretty beautiful when it comes to growing with other people. Because sometimes that path of self-actualization can be a little bit lonelier if you don't have anyone to share these experiences with. So that's the beauty of group coaching, is that we do have that. And I hold a container with really strong intentions that life after Living with Soul looks like one where you are clear on your soul's deepest desires, or at least you have the process in mind to get clear on your soul's deepest desires. I've created a process to help you do that. And I also want you to know with every part of you that your visions of your ideal future are real. And you get to choose to live in that state every day. I hope that you walk away from this living in abundance, peace, and freedom on your journey, no matter where you're at, no matter what your external world is telling you. I want you to feel it within, because as within, so without, it's going to start reflecting on the outside. You just have to trust the process. So it's about stepping into trust too. And that life after living with soul will also look like one where you can empower yourself when life gets challenging, where you can confidently embody your own authentic expression, and where you can realize that your unique expression is what will drive your service to others. You just being unique and being authentic to yourself, even if you are not interested in necessarily being of service to others and crossing over your career and service to others, you are still going to be showing up like that in other people's lives. It might be with a young person in your life, maybe a niece or a nephew. It might be your parents. It might be your partner. They might look at you and say, I actually have hope for myself because I can see how this work has changed someone else, or changed this person in my life, changed you. And it gives them that drive that they need. That's you being of service to the world. That's you being of service to humanity, is through at least helping one person in that way. So the way we do it in Living with Soul, this is just the quick logistical details in case any of you want to know. There's over 20 hours of video content, and as we go through the years that I create this and tweak this, you will have access to every part of it. So I'm saying 20 plus hours because I might add in different videos here and there. And with all of the videos, there's also lots of worksheets, guides, processes, full of tools and audios to integrate all of the information emotionally, because it's not just the words that I'm saying, it's you actually integrating it. That's the most important part. Then we also have weekly live calls in an intimate container, and these go really deep. We just get to connect with each other. And there's also a discussion space with a close-knit, soul-aligned community. So I try to keep the community quite small, just so we can hold that really strong energy in it. And you'll also get support directly from me in our chat in that space as well. And the next one is on the 18th of March. So we're kicking off on the 18th of March. I move through these programs over the solstice and equinox portals. So this one is going to be over the equinox coming up. And if you book a 15-minute call with me and you're interested in all of that, we can see if it's the right fit for you. There's no pressure. I know that some of you just came for the free masterclass, and that is totally fine. It was such a pleasure to share all of this with you. But if anyone is interested in Living with Soul, those who join within the first 48 hours of this class will get the early bird pricing. So these are the ways you can contact me. We already have each other. So that's it. I'm just in such gratitude for being of service to you in this way today. And it was really such a pleasure. I'm going to see if there are any questions. I'm so glad that we ended on time. I will answer a couple questions if you have any, and you can just pop them in the chat now if you've written them down.
Thank you, Shriyanka.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Thank you. I have no way of writing to you because I don't know how this works, but
Okay.
I will message you.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. Yes, please do.